In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Maiora Nino Marino Signature Liberta Krita fountain pen. I'll go over the specs, I'll do a writing sample, I'll tell you what I like and don't like about this pen coming up. Blake here with Blake's Broadcast. On this channel, I review fountain pens, paper, and ink, and as always, I put links in the show notes in the description below. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, it really helps out my channel. So this here is the Maiora Nino Marino Signature Liberta Krita fountain pen. So there's a lot there. Nino Marino signature pens are like the top of the line of the Maiora brand. They don't currently offer any Nino Marino signature pens. I believe they've all been sold out, but I'm told that they are going to be making more Nino Marino signature pens, and that from what I've heard, they're going to be quite a bit different than these pens. That said, this pen, in my opinion, is basically a higher end version of the Maiora Alpha. Let's talk about Nino Marino for a minute. He was one of the original founders of the Delta brand, which went defunct. Since he's started the Maiora brand, he's reacquired the rights to Delta, so now he makes Delta pens. He also makes the current versions of the Nettuno pens, which I've been carrying at the Paper Mind. I really love those Nettuno pens. I think they're really beautiful and they're quite well made. The Maiora brand, I think, is kind of changing quite a bit now that he has the Delta line, because to me, the Maiora Alpha, which is sort of what this pen is based on, looked very similar to the Delta, the old Delta Dolce Vita. But now that he has Delta, he's making a Dolce Vita, or a DV 2.0 pen is I think what it's called. So I think this brand is more shifting towards what they have called an Ogiva model. I haven't experienced one of those yet, but anyway, boring backstory. This pen is, again, the top of the line of the Maiora lineup, and it's very similar to a Maiora Alpha. I did a review of one of those, just sort of like the most low-end version a while ago. I'll put a link to that up in the corner. Now, what differentiates this from a Maiora Alpha is that the body is slightly bigger, it's longer, it's made of ebonite, and it has a solid 18 karat gold nib instead of a 14 karat gold or a steel nib that you would get on the Alpha. They asked quite a high price for these pens when they were released. They were like $1,450, which is quite a lot. The Maiora Alpha you could get in 14 karat gold with a cartridge converter for $695 as the retail, and of course you can take 20% off of that for the street price. The version with the gold nib and the piston, which is closer to this, would have been $895, and again there's a street price there. So, you know, to get basically $550 more, you're getting an 18 karat gold nib and you're getting this very cool looking ebonite body, but it's kind of a stretch for me. I was able to pick this pen up for around $400, brand new, and at that price, I like this pen a lot. It's very well put together, but let's just kind of walk through it. So the Crete version that I have here refers to the color of the ebonite, so it's this beige and orange sort of wood grain ebonite. It's very pretty. And like ebonite, it kind of has a warmth to its touch. It's well finished. We have the standard Maiora roller clip here, and it does roll, which I always appreciate. I know I did a video on an Omas where the roller clip did not roll, and that really annoys me. We have these sort of funnel ends to the body and the cap here. And then on the back of the cap, we can see it says Nino Marino and it says Liberta. And then down here, oops, it says Krita or Crete, and it says 13 out of 22 Italy, because they made 22 in each color, and this one happens to be number 13. All of these pens are made in Naples, Italy, and that goes for Nino Marino's other pens, including Delta and Nettuno. Now, I do like that we have these gold cap rings that kind of flank the center cap band. I believe this is a lost wax casting. It's got very deep relief, and it's solid sterling silver, which was the same basic band that I had on my Alpha, so you're not really getting any upgrades in terms of trims here, as far as I can tell. So even on like the lowest end Maiora Alpha, you were getting this cap band, and I think it looks really high quality. And then coming off the cap, there's another trim ring here, and then we have a blind cap here. Now this is a piston filler, and this is actually a real blind cap. I'm told that they make the piston filling mechanism in-house. It does have a click at the end of it when you turn it to pull ink up into the back. It will click just to let you know that you've sort of reached the end there, which I do like. Now, it's a threaded cap, and we do have an ink window here. The threading feels quite nice, quite smooth. In terms of number of turns to remove, a little more than one, which is pretty nice. And then we have the Nino Marino Signature nib here, which does have a laser engraving with the N on there for, I guess, Nino Marino. It's not my favorite. I think this engraving, though, does look better than the standard Maiora one, which is like a star. I, again, would like to see more crisp engravings. I like to see like the factory stamping versus laser engravings. I just think that looks better. However, on this pen, I do think this looks pretty good. You know, as far as laser engravings go, the design of this nib doesn't bother me. We do have a plastic feed here. And, you know, the grip section overall is quite nice, quite a big, chunky grip section. It's very comfortable. The pen does post securely. It does become quite long and it becomes top heavy. However, the pen itself isn't so heavy that it's a real problem for me. I have been using this pen posted without much issue, but you know, depending on the size of your hands, it may be a bit top heavy for you. It certainly does have a bit of a back weight for me. In terms of size and weight, when it comes to the length of this pen, we're looking at about 152-ish. And then unposted, we're looking at, I would say that's about 135, 136. Posted, it's going to become very long, but let's take a look here. Looking at about 176, 177, so that's very long. In terms of the grip section, widest point will be 136, and then the narrowest, it does kind of creep out there, 12.5. So it's a big, fat grip section for sure. Very comfortable pen. I do think the nib looks a little bit small compared to the rest of the pen, but comfort-wise, I think it's very, very comfortable. In terms of the weight here, 41.6 grams. So it's definitely got a decent weight to it. Uncapped, 26.7. You know, it's a hefty pen. It feels very solid. It's turned from a solid bar of ebonite, and I think that does show here a bit in the weight. Now let's do some size comparisons. I don't have another Maiora to compare it to, which is what I would preferably be comparing it to, but here it is with an original Dolce Vita oversized pen. So the original Dolce Vita is a bit heavier, but you can see some of the design language is similar. They're not quite the same. I mean, certainly the clip has a different design to it, and the sterling silver cap band also has a different design to it, but overall I think they do share some similarities. Now, one big difference here is that the oversized model had a number 8 nib, so you can just see it's much, much bigger than this number 6 nib. And one more comparison here, this is a Delta Inuit fountain pen from, again, the old Delta company. And size-wise, you can see that this is still a much bigger pen. Even the grip section is bigger, but the nib sizes remain roughly the same. Now, these old ones here did have laser engraving. This one was stamped, so there are some differences. One thing I will say is the old Deltas, a lot of them did have ebonite feeds versus the plastic feed. I would like to see an ebonite feed, especially on an ebonite pen. Come on, let's make a feed out of ebonite. And I think an ebonite feed would elevate this pen a bit more. So here it is with a similarly priced pen, although I think the price is maybe a little bit easier to justify on the Montegrappa 1930 Extra. You can see it is a bigger pen here. This does come with a number 8 nib, although lengthwise, the nibs are actually very similar in length, but this one is just a fatter nib on the Montegrappa, but all the trim on the Montegrappa is sterling silver, and it's ebonite. It's just I think, feels like a little bit more of a higher end pen, and the retail price is roughly the same between these two. Now, other pens to compare it with, this is a Pelikan M600, the old size, so this would actually be the M400 size. You can see it's quite a bit larger than that. This is an Omas Italia 90, which is the Paragon size pen from the original company. And you can just see how much fatter that pen is than that. For the writing sample, I'm going to be using a Papermind Mitsubishi bank paper notebook. These notebooks are excellent with fountain pens, and for Blake's broadcast viewers and subscribers, you can get 10% off with code BB10 at checkout. So this is the Nino Marino Signature Liberta Creta. This is a medium, and this is Aurora Black. Fast writing. Performance is perfect. You know, this is a really nice writing pen. I have no issues with it at all. In terms of flexibility, you can... Nope, it wants to railroad pretty much instantly. You can push on it a little bit. You know, it's not really... It's not the stiffest nib, but it's not very flexy either, I would say, and it kind of... The feed doesn't seem to like that. Reverse writing, relatively smooth, so kind of well finished. And you do definitely get a big difference in the line. So I would say this is a good candidate for reverse writing. Oops. Yeah, this pen writes really, really nicely. I have no complaints about the performance. It's excellent. So what are my pros and cons for the Nino Marino Liberta Crete fountain pen? Well, I think this is a very cool looking fountain pen. I really like the beige and orange ebonite. I think that looks really cool. I also really like the addition of these gold rings with the silver trim. I just think it just works really well with this pen with the color of that ebonite. The nib is a fantastic writer, very smooth, just really enjoyable to use. And it's a nice, I would say this is actually an oversized pen, so it's very comfortable. I think it's quite nicely made. In terms of cons, the biggest con that we got to talk about is the price, $14.50 for this. It's just too much money. I feel like a retail price maybe maxing out around $800 or $900 would be okay, with a street price, you know, $700-ish could make some sense, but $14.50, that's way too much for this pen. I'm not a huge fan of the engraving on the nib. I do think it looks better than the other standard Maiora laser engraved nib, but not by a lot. When I compare it to the old Delta, Dolce Vita, now these are, I realize that they're different brands, but they're owned by the same person, and the new Deltas are now made in the same factory as the Maiora. I feel like these pens were a little bit nicer. You got ebonite feeds, you got nicer stamped nibs. I don't know why they aren't doing their own stamping. I mean, I'm guessing it's too expensive. That I just don't love. I also think it becomes too big when you post it. It's borderline for me. For some people, it'll definitely be too big, too long. That's pretty much it. It's a nice pen. It writes really well. I think it looks really good. It's just a little bit too expensive. And when you compare it to the old Delta manufacturing, I think the old Delta pens were just a hair nicer in terms of fit and finish, especially when it comes to the nibs, whereas this laser engraved sort of standard Yovo nib with a plastic feed feels a little not nice enough for a $1,500 pen. Well, that's pretty much it. Do you guys have this pen? Do you like this pen? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more fountain pen, paper, and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much, and until next time.